Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Billy Embody. We are going to be joined by former SMU safety Jonathan McGill, who's going to break down what he thought of SMU-Missouri State and kind of look ahead to this TCU matchup as well. And of course, later this week, we've got Hayden Howerton breaking things down. So tons of content on the channel this week. But on this edition, we've got Jonathan McGill as well as some other housekeeping items as the battle for the Iron Skillet week kicks off, and we kick off this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast presented by Northwest Insurance Agency right now.
When you clock in every day, there's always that chance that something can happen. You don't know when, where, or how, but accidents are inevitable. As a business owner, you don't want to be left holding the bag whether something happens to an employee or customer. General liability insurance covers everything from a slip or fall all the way down to a paper cut. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we will get you any necessary coverage that pertains to your field. So get covered under the sombrero by calling 855-88-75656 or visit us at nwagencies.com.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let we go.
That is right. Happy Tuesday to you guys. We are presented by Northwest Insurance Agency. Mark Villasana. Give him a call at 214-352-5656 or email him info@nwagencies.com. It is Iron Skillet week. SMU beats Missouri State 28-10 as well over the weekend. And we talked about that a lot on the postgame podcast. We talked a little bit about kind of where this team is at as a whole and the need to find out if we will see a consistently good SMU team on Saturday, or if we're going to find out that the inconsistency is consistently what SMU might very well be this year. Because once you're 4 games in, there's room for development. And especially since SMU's been injured, I don't want to, of course, completely count out that SMU is going to be able to really take steps forward in conference play. But it is, if they are super inconsistent against TCU like they have been at times over the course of the season, it's going to be a concern that I have long-term for this team, not necessarily this program. I think this program is very much headed in the right direction. It is going through maybe a little bit of transition of the changing of the guard from the transfer portal commitment to the high school commitment side of things. So, and maybe this is a season that takes a step back. But as we saw over the weekend, the ACC is wide open, guys. Stanford beats Boston College. Clemson falls at Georgia Tech. You have Virginia Tech that is a complete dumpster fire and I already fired their head coach. You have a program in Cal that looks like it's going to be that dark horse type of team with their freshman phenom quarterback. And you have Miami that looks like one of the best teams of the country, and Louisville kind of doing their thing as well. I also saw Pitt lost to West Virginia. I mean, SMU doesn't play Pitt this year, but the ACC is wide open, especially when you factor in Florida State doing what it's doing right now too. So there are a lot of things that may be unfinished business that SMU is about right now, but there's very much opportunity for this team to figure out how they can get to the level that they need to by those critical games. Not that Syracuse isn't, not that Stanford isn't, but a Clemson game, a Miami game, a Louisville game. Looking like Cal that last weekend of the season on the road is going to be a tough one. You know, those are steps that SMU still has to take for you to feel good about the opportunity that they have to beat those teams. And it starts Saturday in Fort Worth. It really does. You know, you can kind of come up with all sorts of different reasons why SMU's not been as good as it could be this season so far. First game of the year, you play a nobody opponent. You got a big game against Baylor the next week. You know, you do this, you do that. Guess what? It's not a clean game. Rhett Lashley's teams in season openers haven't necessarily been the most clean football teams. Okay, you go against Baylor and you roll offensively, at least for the most part. until when you needed them to get another first down, they couldn't do it at the end of the game. But defensively was the big red flag. Okay, maybe the rush, maybe the this, maybe the that. You couldn't get it going. So that needs to be fixed. Then you go to Missouri State and you hold them over on third downs and fourth downs and save for, pass interference penalty here and there, or a this or that, or a late hit on a quarterback. Those are the only ways you're allowing Missouri State to extend drives. You clean things up defensively. Offensively, I thought they were fine, but they still turned the ball over in the first 2 drives. So you haven't seen all these different things. And by the way, that game was 17,000 people in a jacked up football team you were facing. Creating your own energy is probably the biggest overall takeaway I have for this football team right now, that they have to find a way to do on Saturday. And guess what? They came out against Baylor ready to roll. Maybe they come out against TCU ready to roll. But it's that first road test. It's 11 a.m., bright and early. The last battle for the Iron Skillet. You can't let emotion overtake you and lose focus on your assignments. And there's going to need to be team leadership at every single level, at every single position, that helps push this thing in the right direction to make that happen. So a very big week for SMU football. And we'll talk about that a lot on the podcast as well, and get Jonathan McGill's thoughts. But of course, do want to remind you guys about our friend Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise, myperfectfranchise.net. Andy Ludicky is a franchise consultant. His services are free. You can dial him up and say, hey, I want to leave my job. I've got this pool of money. Maybe I can start my own business. Maybe I can do my own franchise. Andy Ludicky can help walk you through the process and get you to that point where you can own your own business. And you can set your own hours. Whether it be you want to own a brick and mortar, whether it be you want to work from home, you can do all of those things with Andy Ludicky and walk through all of those things with him. 404-973-9901, or email him, Andy, ANDY, at myperfectfranchise.net. If you do opt to go with a franchise that he helped get you with, he will donate some of the money he earns off of setting you up with that franchise back to the Boulevard Collective. So worth keeping in mind there. Again, services are free, so just give him a call. And of course, he's friends with Graham and Miles Uter, 2 SMU football players as well. They're family friends down there in Alabama. So make sure you reach out to Andy today. That's right. So check in with our friend Andy Ludicky for more information on that. Rhett Lashley did meet with the media as well on Tuesday, as did Kevin Jennings. Both of those video interviews are up on our YouTube channel as well. So make sure you check those out. But injury updates, a couple of them that are big. Zakai Barker and Alexander Kilgore are both trending to be available for SMU this week. That's a big duo for the Mustangs at that linebacker position. Now, they both haven't played a ton of football for the Mustangs this season. Alexander Kilgore hurt early in that East Texas A&M game, but he has played a ton of football for the Mustangs over the last few years. That is a big leader for SMU that looks to be available. He did take warm-ups. He did, just to make sure that came across clear, take warm-ups against Missouri State. So that looks like a good sign. Zakai Barker did travel for that game as well. So that's another good sign, as did Jordan Hudson. Now, Jordan Hudson's still very much questionable, but Rhett Lashley did say that he did practice on Tuesday as well. So the first time him getting back out there. If you want more updates on the rest of the injury updates, make sure you check out our full interview with Rhett Lashley, or go to ontheponyexpress.com. There's a couple he didn't address that we have intel up for you guys, or should be up here shortly by the time you're listening to this on the site as well. So those are some couple of key names getting back into the mix for SMU that would be helpful against the Horned Frogs without a doubt. But a couple other notable guys we have updates on the website. But let's kind of wrap on this, because we do have Jonathan McGill joining us. And before we kind of close out with some final thoughts here before we get to McGill, I do want to remind you guys about our friends Manny's Tex-Mex. Say queso to your server when ordering your food, and get 10% off your food at any of Manny's 4 locations across DFW. Now, really exciting piece to the Manny's promo here that we're really excited about, and that is the month of October. They're doing something really special at Manny's, and they're partnering with the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation for the 3rd year in a row now. And the entire month of October, they'll have a special Komen Rita. It is a pink dragon fruit margarita. So, of course, pink, the color of breast cancer awareness, and they will donate $1 for every Komen Rita sold towards Susan G. Komen, which is a really, really great organization, of course. And for Manny's to do this just means one thing: go in, have lunch, have dinner, get your 10% off on your food, but also order the Komen Rita and support a great cause as well. So that kicks off Wednesday, October 1st. We are going to be at the Mockingbird location for lunch. So, guys, we'll kind of let you know at ontheponyexpress.com the exact time, but we're just basically going to do a come and hang out. And we'll talk SMU football, basketball will be getting close to starting by then. We'll just hang out during the lunch hour. We'll have lunch. We'll get a table, get a situation set up. And then at the Plano location, Coit and Campbell, we're going to do happy hour. So that'll be a lot of fun. Come hang out with me at Manny's and have margaritas for a great cause. So again, the Komen Rita, every margarita sold, $1 will get donated to Susan G. Komen. So don't forget your 10% off when you say queso. Call the manager over, let them know, hey, I'm supposed to get 10% off your food. And of course, support their fundraiser for Susan G. Komen during the entire month of October. All right. With Rhett Lashley's press conference, also came a little Thunder On promo, which is the new ESPN documentary coming out, produced by Omaha Productions, that is going to chronicle the resurgence of the SMU Mustangs. Now, I don't want to say classic because this is a new era of SMU as a whole, but in classic SMU fashion, this documentary is being released when SMU had just blown a 14-point lead against Baylor, and it comes out the day after at 2 p.m. Central on ESPN, the day after SMU plays TCU. So now everybody's going to either be licking their wounds from a TCU win or just doubling down on talking a whole bunch of smack to the Horned Frogs as SMU's second documentary on ESPN gets released. Now, this one, Rhett Lashley talked about it today in a separate video on our YouTube channel, but talked about this is the chronicles of the journey that SMU has been on to get back from the death penalty. And I think it's pretty fair. I saw it. It is like, it doesn't sit there and talk trash about Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes was a huge piece to SMU being in the position that it is for multiple reasons. Still won, that was critical, but also motivated a lot of people as well. Don't get that wrong. But I think it was a really good representation of how SMU got back to where it is and the journey that SMU went on to get to where it is now. Now, you could talk about where this current football team is right now. This does not go through the 2025 season at all. They did some filming during fall camp just to get some extra B-roll and things like that. But this is really that ride from death penalty and really also highlights a lot of SMU's history before that. But death penalty it's the resurgence of the Mustangs. So Rhett Lashley talked a little bit about that as well. So check out that video on our YouTube channel as well. But Sunday is a kind of final celebration of what SMU did to get back to where it is now, which is in the Power Four ranks. And it also highlights that they're not done. Getting Jay Hartzell, getting Damon Evans, getting Andy Enfield, Rhett Lashley's doing his thing, Adia Barnes coming in, Sam Erger in the volleyball team. I mean, so much is going well on campus right now that there is a strong belief in this university that they aren't done. This is a program from a football perspective that is set up to win and win big. When you look at the current college football playoff setup, that's all there, but also the university as a whole, and not to bring this all back to TCU, but SMU-TCU are two universities on two totally different tracks in a sense right now, and I don't even mean that from like any other way than it's just, look at the two universities and what they're doing right now. And so that's what obviously makes Saturday important for SMU. Like, they need to go out and win. They need to go out and win to kind of silence what has been talked about by me. Has been talked about by the message board at On the Pony Express, Twitterverse, whatever, over the first 3 weeks of this season. There's a football team that is much more talented and has much more opportunity to play at a higher level than it has shown this season. And that's either going to be the most frustrating thing about this team throughout the rest of the season, or it's going to be the thing that you point back to and you go, my eyes did not deceive me when I was watching in spring and watching in fall camp this team come together, and the pieces that are here, they just needed a moment to figure it out. 42 of 85 new players on this roster. And they have different guys that are coming into their own as true freshmen early on, or they are transfers that have taken a minute to make an impact, or guys that have gotten hurt. I mean, this is the most banged up SMU team Rhett Lashley's ever had, really, especially at this point of the season. So there's a lot of questions around this team and how they're going to end up being long-term, this season long-term. But the program is headed in the right direction. There's financial support, there's facilities, there's more facility support coming at some point down the line. All the things that Rhett Lashley wants, he's going to get. That's the reality of where SMU as a program is. And all the things that this university wants to do, it's hard to bet against them not getting those. Like Jay Hartzell, his leadership, a lot of the new leadership at the helm of the university as a whole, they're going to get this school to where they want to be. And athletically, it's wherever this sport and wherever the NCAA and realignment goes, they want to be on the right side of it. So this is a story of getting themselves to the position of whenever the next realignment comes, SMU should be talked about as one that has to be included for all the reasons laid out and all the reasons that they've already put together. But also, it is a school that still has a lot more to do. And that is, for SMU fans, should be exciting. And it should be something that makes Saturday and Sunday potentially an incredible weekend for SMU. So now Rhett Lashley, his staff, his players, of course, have to go out and win this game. Now, I said this on the Dave Campbell's Texas podcast earlier this week, but for Sonny Dykes, this is a must-win for his program. If you lose a second straight to SMU, it really looks like things are not going in the right direction, truthfully. I mean, regardless of how they finished last year, they're not going to accept losing a second straight to SMU and kind of going in that 8-4, whatever range that they're in. But for Rhett Lashley's team this year, the 2025 SMU Mustangs, they got to win this game to put the train just kind of firmly on a track of, okay, that Baylor game that we blew, it's fine. It's fine. It's not okay, but it was fine. It was just a process that SMU needed to go through to learn how to finish, learn how to win. We have the tools, we have the pieces, we have the guys. We just needed a moment. So we're going to find out a lot on Saturday, and we'll talk about that with Hayden Howerton and more later on this week on the pod. But before we get to our interview with Jonathan McGill and chatting with him, do want to remind you guys about our friends at StatusJet, statusjet.com. Reach out to David Henry and his team today. Talk about that Clemson trip. Talk about that Wake Forest trip. I'm starting to plan the Wake Forest trip right now, and I tell you what, I wish I was on StatusJet because it is quite the university to get to. It is quite the university. So when you reach out to StatusJet, mention On the Pony Express, get a discount on your round trip flight from them. Make sure you tell them Billy Embody and On the Pony Express sent you there. So that is StatusJet. We appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast. And of course, I went by Brandon Thomas Mitsubishi yesterday morning, get the oil changed. I was in and out in 45 minutes. It was fantastic. It was great. Easy in, easy out. Like, that was exactly what you want from that type of an experience. And their entire team over there was great. They've got waters, they've got coffee, they've got all sorts of snacks. It's a great experience in the waiting room. I was able to get some work done, have some coffee, kind of wake up. I did the 8 a.m. appointment. And guess what? I got to go back there on Wednesday. My brake fluid way down here, way low. So they're going to address that for me as well. And I have no problem getting up that early and having coffee with my friends at Brandon Thomas Mitsubishi. And you can also check out their service departments across their other 3 dealerships, Ford, Subaru, and Volkswagen. They're right up 75 in McKinney, and mention On the Pony Express and getting employee pricing on new and pre-owned vehicles. So with that, we're going to go to our interview with former SMU safety Jonathan McGill, close out this podcast with that. Hope you guys enjoy it, and tons of content at ontheponyexpress.com this week. Did our live chat. We'll have a lot more going on with the game as it gets closer. So make sure to subscribe for just $1 this week and get a special deal as well. when you sign up for your first week and then do an annual subscription, you'll get a complimentary year of The Athletic included with your membership. So if you're already paying for The Athletic, come join on the Pony Express and get a complimentary year of The Athletic included with your membership. So we appreciate all you guys for listening out there. And now we go to our interview with former SMU safety, Jonathan McGill. Now, of course, really excited to have back on the show, of course, Jonathan McGill, who is the host of our After Staying show now. On the road, a little bit more difficult, McGill, but look, now we got you back, being able to break down SMU-Missouri State as well as look ahead to SMU-TCU. And this past Saturday, like we kind of talked about, an interesting game for SMU up there against Missouri State. When you look at the defense, just kind of what was your overall takeaways from that game? One that you see SMU shut down third down, shut down fourth downs, but also just kind of some ability to move the ball too from Missouri State.
Yeah, I think early on in the game, you had seen sudden change. And if you don't know what sudden change is, it's pretty much when there's a turnover, whether that be, a fumble, on a kickoff, a fumble on a punt, an interception thrown where the defense suddenly has to get on the field. And so we've seen sudden change as a defense. You saw that that first drive kind of got on the field, got a field goal. The second drive, the touchdown drive that Missouri State had, seemed like it was a lot of penalties, whether that, you agree with the penalty or not. It was 2 offsides penalties that we had. So pre-snap penalties from SMU, some things that are completely controllable and things that I know Scott Simons is going to address moving forward. I know Coach Lashley will probably make a huge emphasis of, cleaning up, games. You can't win a lot of games in the future and down the line having, 12 penalties. For I want to say it was like 120, 130 yards. And so I know that that's going to be a huge thing that they step forward. Defensively, though, third down, really tightening up in the red zone and getting off the field, third down and fourth down was something that was huge and something that SMU fans should be excited for. SMU has been top 25 in third down efficiency, I want to say, for the past 2 years. And so I know Scott Simons, Coach Crum, the rest of the coaching staff take great pride in getting us off the field, because at the end of the day, if you can get off the field on third down and fourth down, that eliminates a lot of things that can happen on early downs as well. So was very happy with how the game ended. First quarter was eventful. This team likes to make it interesting and keep us as viewers engaged, but like to see that they had tightened it up towards the end and really played a great game defensively, if you count the last 3 quarters.
The changes from Baylor to Missouri State, at least on the depth chart, Ahmad Moses moves up to that nickel spot. You've got Jaden Milner-Jones out there. You've got Isaiah Wakobe out there. Kyron Chambers played some snaps. In particular at the safety position, that was really where we saw some changes. As a former SMU safety, what are some of those differences playing that nickel versus playing like a free, or, all the different positions back there in the secondary?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference in what it kind of boils down to, free safety is your more communicating guy, someone who lines up, gets everybody involved, gets everybody in a call, and really has to kind of be the quarterback of the defense, if that makes sense. When you're at nickel, it's a lot more, you're around the football, you're blitzing, you're dropping in coverage, you're playing more man coverage. So those guys are typically your guys that, have high playmaking ability. Free safety is, probably, one of the most intellectual positions in a Scott Simons defense, and what he asks you to do and what you have to do from a play-to-play basis. Seeing, stuff pre-snap to communicating pre-snap to communicating during the play to communicating post-snap on the sideline as well. And so those are just a little bit of the differences. I love, seeing Kyron out there. I love seeing Abdul Muhammad get some playing time and, have some good tackles out there. Seeing, Zay, obviously, Jaden Milner-Jones, and, obviously Ahmad Moses and Zay. Those are my two guys. Love rooting and seeing them do well and seeing them kind of try to elevate this safety room to what the potential is.
When you have a quarterback like Jacob Clark, I think he's like 27 years old. I mean, I know they said he was like in his 7th or 8th year, but a veteran guy who's been around, he saw some passing lanes out there. Now, SMU was able to really kind of impact him in particular in the second half and get after the quarterback a little bit, and everything kind of tightened down as a whole in the secondary too, like you kind of said. But what was he doing to kind of find some of those lanes from what you saw?
Yeah, I remember Jacob Clark actually coming out of
Yeah.
high school. I want to say
Yeah.
we
Did
were in the
you
same
play him?
class,
Yeah.
class of yeah, I didn't play him, but I knew of him
Yeah.
because I know
Yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigbo really well at Rockwall, and that was his quarterback. And so I've known of him, and so I know that he's a veteran guy. He's played a lot of football, was at Minnesota, and so with teams like that and the scheme like Missouri State had, they really do a lot of checks, right? So based on whatever shell he sees, whether that's a two high shell or a one high shell, and when I say shell, I'm referring to the safeties and if that's a two high look or a one high look. And so he has the flexibility to change plays, kill plays, and it looks like he was doing a great job of that to start the game, the first couple drives, and trusting in what he had prepared for and what he had seen. To executing that, and that was something that he had did. Obviously, SMU ends up getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. He hit the quarterback way more this game, it felt like, than previous games. And I know that kind of probably affected him. He went into the injury tent, came back out. Real heartbeat, real tough guy for that team. And, you just see, the veteran presence that he had and playing multiple defenses throughout his career and playing 7 years in college football. He's seen probably every scheme you can see. And so SMU seen that as well.
Overall, what kind of is the vibe now as you turn the page to a big game like this? And as a player, is it one where okay, yeah, you just kind of had to get through Missouri State because TCU is up on the calendar next?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's certain games that are circled on the schedule. As a player, when I was playing, you try to say, every game is the same. I mean, you prepare the same, but there's certain games going into the season that you're more excited for, and this is one of those opportunities with TCU, the last chance to to keep the Iron Skillet, and somebody and a team, that it's a historical rivalry, right? They said a century that they played this game. And so I'm really excited. I know as a player, this is a week where, you're very excited, you're very happy to get a chance to leave with tangible evidence that you did accomplish a job. And so those games for trophies, championship games, those games are huge and always circle because you get tangible evidence of a job well done, is what we used to say.
You look at the Horned Frogs and what they've been able to do, offensively with Josh Hoover at the helm. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the country for a reason. What did you see from him last year? Just watching film and then obviously playing against him. And then what have you seen from him this year?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing with Josh is that he's a very talented quarterback. You can see his arm angles, different arm angles, whether that's traditional, whether that's side arm in the passes from the pocket, outside the pocket. He can pick up yardage with his feet if need be. He's not looking to scramble, but he can pick up a first down if it is 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, and everybody's backs is in man-to-man coverage. They don't see him. He has that athletic ability to extend plays, and so the biggest thing I had seen in preparing for him last season was really the playmaking potential and ability that he had. And so, with a very live arm, and with a live arm, I mean, he can throw the ball deep. So, in certain scenarios of scramble drill, certain quarterbacks, you don't necessarily have to plaster as much because they don't have the arm strength or the arm ability to get it there. With Josh Hoover, his arm is very much alive. And so you have to be very sound in your coverage in the back end. He's thrown, for, I want to say around, let me see, I've seen it, 621 yards in 2 games. Which is very impressive. 76% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. And so, what I have seen from TCU, it seems like they're a little bit more running back centered focus this year than years prior, I would say, with their running back, Cavorian Barnes, who seems to run the ball at a really high rate. And he's a very physical running back from watching the North Carolina game to watching, last week versus Abilene Christian. So it's going to be a talented offense, a good task, and a good challenge for SMU. And I'm excited to see how they shape up.
You also have a wide receiver core that looks a lot different than the one that you faced last year in a sense. Eric McAllister, I believe, is back. Joseph Manjack is
Hmm.
there. You might have even known Joseph, coming through recruiting, because I sure do. But Ed Small is a true freshman who's really stuck out. I saw Major Everhart. Looks like he might be back. So they have some different options than they had last year. What has kind of caught your eye on film watching them?
Yeah, I would say obviously, Dwyer
Yeah,
is
of course,
probably one
Dwight.
of the
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
Dwyer is a guy that has kind of popped on tape, averaging around 17 yards a catch, which is something that's, you always want to have an eye on because that's explosive plays, right? You want to limit explosive plays. So Dwyer, Manjack always sticks out on tape with no gloves, no accessories, no anything. Just goes up there and plays football. And so very talented receiving core. I think one of the very similar kind of to Baylor in terms of multiple guys can play multiple positions and a deep receiver room is something that SMU hasn't seen since Baylor in week 2. So I think Dwyer, Manjack, McAllister, Small last game having 2 touchdowns. And watching that game, those are the guys that have impressed. Obviously, they have an experienced tight end in Curtis who's coming back again, so that's always something to look out for. Whether that's check downs, whether that's pass pro, whether that's blocking. So those are the type of guys in the receiving room that TCU has a talented group, a different group. Obviously, happy Jack Betch isn't there anymore. Savion Williams isn't there anymore, and J.P. Richardson isn't there anymore. But these are all young guys that are elevated into roles that have the potential and the talent to be really well.
And what are the staples of Kendall Browse's offense? Because you've gotten a chance to play him a couple times, I think, since he was a coordinator there. What are the things that you have to account for on a play-by-play basis?
I would say the biggest thing is tempo. I remember that first year we had played them in 2023. It was very similar to practice and playing SMU in terms of how fast they get on the ball. The ref is barely spotting the ball, and the offense is already ready to snap the ball. You have to be sound with your eyes and eye discipline. They're going to do a lot of motions, a lot of shifts. Just to really see, like, are you locked in? Are you disciplined as a defense to talk about things pre-snap, post-snap, and to really try to make adjustments, right? And so that's the biggest thing. I feel like with Coach Briles, he does a great job of getting to certain formations do different ways, right? He doesn't just line up and play something. He'll motion to it, he'll shift to it to run the plays that they have as staples. And so tempo will be huge for SMU to get lined up and also diagnosing formations and trying to see what TCU's game plan is throughout the game, right? And seeing how that adjusts from a game to game basis.
Not trying to get you to say anything in particular here, but your thoughts that this could be the last one of the Iron Skillet. I think it comes back at some point, but your thoughts.
I would have assumed that there were talks to extend it and, kind of after this week or, later this year that they would have said that it has been extended. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, I mean, I'm just really hoping SMU keeps it so we can get that bragging rights. But also, I mean, it was a historical rivalry. Hopefully, it continues to go on and continues to stay. But there's nothing like the Iron Skillet. There's nothing like that game. The fan base being really, really engaged, really there, and as well as players, alums, anybody that has played at SMU coming back, giving us a talk, speaking to us pregame about how much this game has meant to them, and just as a player being able to carry that tradition forward is one of the one things that I would be sad to see if this rivalry doesn't get renewed or come back down the line.
What was your favorite memory from the Skillet?
Trying to be politically correct here because Coach Dykes did recruit me back in high school. But I would say last season was
Yeah,
definitely probably the most memorable game. Being able
had
to
everything.
score, yeah, being able to score a punt return for a touchdown, being able to have a fumble recovery for a touchdown, have an interception for a touchdown, have a rushing touchdown, have a passing touchdown. Like it was just probably one of the most complete games that I've seen and ever been a part of. And it was something that was electric because the fan base from start to finish was engaged. As players, you felt that momentum, big hits. Coach Dykes getting thrown out of the stadium. Like it was just stuff that is almost like a movie. It really felt like a movie last year, and that was definitely my favorite memory, and something that I'll always remember forever.
How different is it to go on the road now and try to do this, for the guys like, and I would say one thing that I've at least observed is you got to create your own energy. And I thought last year's team as a whole was really good at doing that. This year's team maybe still finding their way. Maybe you guys internally feel a little differently. And at the end of the day, though, that's going to be what they're going to have to do on Saturday is find that juice right off the bat. How do you do that on the road? Like, what are some of the things you remember doing that helped you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is embracing that villain mentality, if that's what you want to call it. Embrace being the bad guy in terms of everybody in the stadium. For the most part, right, 90%, 80% of the stadium is rooting against you, and that's just something that chip on your shoulder that you have to have, and something that you have to keep. Because when the stadium, when the ball is kicked off, obviously they're booing, but when it ends, you want to be the one having the last laugh, and that's something that you want, and that's the best feeling in the world. We all love home games, but the best feeling is when you go into an away stadium and you shut the crowd up and you can walk out smiling, laughing, talking about, oh, you remember how that one guy was heckling me on the front row? Well, I didn't even see him at the end of the third quarter, the start of the fourth quarter. Those are the things and the moments that you have to really keep into your mind of, yes, like everybody's against me. I have a chip on my shoulder. How can I make them eat their words, right? And make them shut up. And we can, party in their stadium, and break the rock at the end of the game. And so I think this team is moving towards that direction. I think they embrace that chip on their shoulder. I feel like they hear the noise. They see, they wasn't, obviously you don't want to worry about rankings or anything, but you see that you aren't ranked anymore, right? So what you had coming into the season, it seems like it's been, disrespected or disregarded. And so now it's kind of like, okay, now, we're finding our footing, we're having our confidence. Now let's go into this role. Let's go on the road. Let's embrace this opportunity and really make the most of it and put, TCU on notice, but everybody else on our schedule on notice as well.
And they'll have a chance to do that. 11 a.m. Central on ESPN2, SMU-TCU, the battle for the Iron Skillet. Jonathan McGill, thanks so much for stopping by with us on the Pony Express podcast, my friend. We'll be looking forward to getting with you post-game on the After Stang show. So we'll be sure to have everybody tuned in for that as SMU takes on TCU Saturday.
Yes, sir. Pony up. Let's go, Ponies.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU-on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.